Hey guys, you've seen our Richmond reviews, you've seen our Essendon reviews, and today we're doing Brisbane. We're joined by Supercoach DR to talk all things Lions. Hope you enjoy. DR, mate, thanks for coming on. It's I know kind of reliving old feelings from last year is probably not the greatest thing, but welcome aboard. I know Joe and I are pretty happy to have you and kind of just go over Brisbane's season last year and then talking about their season coming ahead in 2024.
G'day, boys. Well, thank you very, very much for having me. I must just say, first of all, you guys have been smashing out this content in the pre-season, so congratulations, fellas. I tell you what, that chat you had with Jaden the other day, talk about a beginner's series. I don't know how beginner's series it was because I was sitting there taking notes myself. But no, thank you for having me on, Legends. And yeah, look, a few scars from last year when it comes to the Lions. But in saying that, you know, it was another step forward from the previous year. We finally made it to the big dance. Couldn't go all the way, but you know, if you look at what Sydney dished up the other year, it was a pretty decent performance at the end of the day. So I don't think we absolutely ashamed ourselves. So pretty proud of the boys, but hopefully another step forward this year would be nice and actually take the cup home.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the sort of discussion we're going to have today, whether or not the Brisbane Lions can do one better, because as you mentioned, you guys have made it to a place that not too many teams can make it to, going all the way to the grand final, finishing in the top two with it's a great percentage. Anything 120 plus as a percentage, I think is a really good indicator of how you perform. And in a lot of instances, I think the percentage says a lot about how your season went more so than the wins and losses, because you could have quite a few wins, but if your percentage is hovering around the 100%, it means that you probably were a bit lucky in sneaking over the line.
Yeah, well, look, we know how tight the competition is these days, and percentage plays a big key, can really be the difference between having a double chance these days. So I think with Brisbane, we're maturing more as a side. And if you look even maybe 3-4 years ago, in certain situations, certain gameplay situations, we just seem to lose our head a little bit. And I think given our list profile is getting more of that older type now, we've certainly got some nice young players coming through. But I think that means in these particular situations, we're more adept with what to do now. We've got gameplay, we've got strategy behind us, and I think that helps with little things like percentage, and that goes a long way at the end of the day. So, yeah, a couple of lucky wins there, but a couple of unlucky losses thrown in there. But always nice when you beat the Pies and the Blues twice. Certainly won't complain there, but unfortunately couldn't beat the Pies a third time, which was the most important time in the big dance. But yeah, really looking forward to that matchup again this year.
It probably helps when you've got such a big juggernaut of a stadium as the Gabba, right? You just turn up and when was the last time you guys had a loss at the Gabba? I know like this year was almost undefeated or was undefeated. When was the last loss?
Yeah. Jeez, I don't even know off the top of my head. It's like Marcus Bontempelli. When's the last time you went under 100? 41 out of 45 games, I think it is. It's like a Bontempelli type record at the Gabba. But yeah, look, it is a real fortress. I've been up there once, and it was against Collingwood. It was a few years ago. So I'm expecting to be a real part of the Gabba Roar. For the first time in a long time, the crowd will be on my side because obviously living in Victoria, I'm always at away games and the away crowd. But you wouldn't believe it, being Collingwood, they outroared the Lions supporters. It rained on us. I just had my jumper signed at training the day before. That all smudged and we lost by about 50 points. So that was my experience at the Gabba. So hopefully if I go up again, I'll be hearing a bit of Country Road and having a nice victory. But yeah, not great memories for myself personally at the Gabba, boys.
Maybe a road trip with DR in 2024.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That would be really interesting. I mean, the last time, I just pulled it up now, the last time you guys lost at the Gabba was to Melbourne in round 23 of 2022. So I think, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of development in your side. And I think even in Fagan as well as a coach, like coming across and just really getting used to the list. I know at the start you had a really clean bill of health, but sort of you've been a bit unlucky, I think, as time has gone on with some injuries here and there, especially you were talking about young talent, like you've got some great youth. I mean, obviously, Will Ashcroft is probably top of the charts when it comes to incredible young talent. And I'm so glad that he won Goal of the Year, because that That
Yes.
check side karate kick mid-air in the pocket was just unreal.
Oh,
Right,
mate, wasn't it?
right.
Look, no offense, Big J, because I know you're a North man. I love Daniel Wells's goal, but it was like just a better version of Daniel Wells just on the
Yep.
angle there. We all remember that one. That was a classic from
Mm.
Elsie to put that one through. But yeah, the bloke is such a talent. I think he even exceeded my expectations. He came into the side and he pretty much locked down the best 22 positions straight away. And I think we really felt it when he did get injured and he went out of the side. I think a few players had to step up and maybe didn't as much as they could have at times. So we will be missed for around half of the season. But I think when he comes back, then although, it'll take him a little bit of time to find his feet, maybe come finals times, he'll be warmed up and, ready and roaring to go.
I think one of the greatest strengths for Brisbane, and I know Richmond had this a few years ago, was just your depth. Brisbane's VFL side has always dominated, has always done really well. I know they had like an undefeated season a couple of years ago, and that wholeheartedly kind of follows into the positioning on field and the pressure on field as well. I mean, you spoke about Ashcroft leaving, but guys came in and really filled the role. Imagine if like North Melbourne had Sheasel injured, someone who had such a vital player on field, us not being able to cover that. Someone else came in, Ashcroft got injured, whatever. Even same with Daniel Rich leaving halfway through the season. It was almost like, cool, this really established player's there. No, we've now lost him. Someone from the lower league will come through and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think that's the mantra that Brisbane take into each game as well, is that the soldier goes down, the soldier replaces him. They all know their roles. And as I said, I've mentioned a couple of times now, they're just really, really maturing as a side. And I really don't think that the off-season additions, and we might talk about that, the off-season delistings or the blokes that have moved on, I don't think that's really going to hurt us too much. Even like Daniel Rich, I think we've got blokes that can, I'll never say replace Daniel Rich's shoes because he's an absolute champion for the Brisbane Lions, one of my favourite players of all time. But I think there are players that can really step up, take that leadership role and fill those shoes that Richie will leave behind.
I think before we jump into that, I just wanted to say, I know Joe and I are pretty sure we went and watched the grand final. I mean, not live, but on TV. And mate, it was one of those games where, previous years we had Melbourne versus the Bulldogs, and it was just a bit of a slaughter. And then Sydney as well last year. And then to come out and have such a close game as well, two really competitive teams, and one that was, at least both competitive after halftime. Collingwood definitely has been one of those sides that will dominate in the second half. That's what they trained for the whole year. They put themselves in the bad positions to do that. And then having you guys like stay tall and stay confident with them was really impressive to watch.
Very proud of the boys, very proud. Look, obviously shattering that you get so close, but as I mentioned with the Geelong example before, at least you can leave the ground with your head held high and say that you're really proud of the boys. We didn't give up. And there were times in the game where, and this happens in many grand finals and many games, where it was going both ways. One team had the momentum, looked like they could break away, but then the other team clawed their way back. So I think every player in the field there, played a phenomenal game. And although we didn't take the chocolates home, super proud of the boys. And you can't be disappointed. You can't be too disappointed because it was a Pies home ground. It was the MCG. We know what our MCG record was like. So taking that into account as well, coming up against Magpie Army, I think was a pretty good effort. And look, all credit goes to Collingwood. I do think they were the best side in 2023, but hopefully the Lions will be the best side in 2024.
That's
that was the best grand final I've seen in a long time. I know the Bulldogs Melbourne one was definitely up there but that's for a different reason. Like obviously that was a drought-breaking performance for Melbourne, and that last 5 minutes of that third quarter when they went bang, 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 that was the most insane 5 minutes I've ever seen. But yeah, this game was backwards and forwards, and a lot of players had big moments, and that was one of the criticisms I think I've had of Brisbane in the past, that they haven't been able to stand up in big moments. But I feel like you really did, and you've got a really potent forward line. I'd say the best forward line in the competition. Just your ability, your tools, and as much as I hate to say it, Joe Danaher's he's an incredible footballer. When he's not sitting on the fence, he's a sensational footballer.
That's right.
and obviously you got Hipwood there. So you've got some great talls, and then you got incredible smalls at ground level. Obviously you got the Harley Country Road, and you've got other players that, you know, I think the Zach Bailey just goes under the radar so much. This guy is just sheer class, X factor. He's brilliant. You got McCarthy, Lincoln McCarthy as well, moved across from Geelong and then has been absolutely a revelation for you. So it's impossible for you guys to do bad. I imagine. Like I would be really optimistic for you guys coming into 2024 with that firepower.
Oh, look, I hope you're right, mate. I hope you're right. And look, I really do rate our forward line. And I think one thing, and this is probably a player that not many know of, he's a bloke named Kyle Lohman. So I actually thought that during the off season he'd probably leave the Lions and go back home to Melbourne, but surprisingly stayed on. And I was rapt about that because I think he's our future Link McCarthy replacement. And I'm really hoping that he can push his way into the best 22, put a lot of pressure on McCarthy. And McCarthy's been fantastic. And you think of the recruits that we've actually brought across from other teams, you know, your Lockie Neals, your Josh Dunkleys, Charlie Camerons, Link McCarthy, they're really high quality recruits. They're not the C grade types that maybe we've brought across in the past. And I think we've had a bit of a history of, you know, bringing across your Bastanak types. And no offense to Ryan Bastanak, was a decent type player. But we're bringing stars across at the moment. And I think if you look at that forward line, even Joey Danaher, as you mentioned, who we've brought across, I think we've filled a lot of needs there. And so depth, we've already mentioned that. I think there's a lot of blokes that can actually start to push through there. Even someone like a Cam Rayner, he was out with a knee, remember, first pick in the draft. I'm hoping he can actually explode through the midfield, maybe 15, 20% CBAs this year. I think that would really add another dimension to us. And I think he's got the power to do that. And if he can also really improve his forward craft, along with spending some time in the midfield, being that bull in slow but quick sort of doses, I think that, he could be a pretty dangerous player for us as well, mate. So, pretty exciting times to the forward line.
Yeah, and I like that you're talking about the types of players that you've brought into the side, improving the side, because now it's a great segue and talking about your latest trade period that you had. Definitely a lot more on the quieter front compared to previous years, but I do think that it's definitely bolstered in a key area. For example, I think Tom Dode is a sensational pickup for you, and by reports it seems that his recovery is progressing really well.
It is. I think I was mentioning on a podcast the other day with Benny that I think he's just flown under the radar in regards to pickups this year, because this bloke, in my opinion, can be one of the elite defenders in the competition. I think that he's got that strength to be able to play on some of those bigger type players, as well as really nice intercepting ability as well. So when you got blokes like Harris Andrews and Jack Payne there as those two pillars, if you're adding someone with the quality of Tom Dode, I think that's a really formidable back three, and they can all adjust to different roles as well when required. So even Jack Payne, I think it's really, not many people would know about his aerobic and athletic ability. This bloke is a terrific athlete. I think he was an Australian discus champion as well. So terrific athletic background. And so I think the three of these guys, not just looking at Dode in isolation, but adding him there is going to be phenomenal for us. And then you got blokes like Darcy Gardner, Ryan Lester, who are decent role players when it comes to AFL quality. Both played during our final series, for example, but then our depth, I think, well, when Dode comes into the side, whether it be early to mid-season, they'll push back to depth. So you did mention that before, how important depth is. Bringing a Dode just adds that extra depth and a great on-field leader as well. And look, Brandon Ryan, I think at the end of the day, pretty much a straight swap for Gunston, was it? Maybe a swap of a couple of picks. I'm not too sure, but I think that's okay at the end of the day. Gunston wasn't really in our plans moving forward, I don't think. We look at how we set up our team towards the end of the season. He had that period during the year where maybe fitness wasn't up to scratch and went back to the VFL, worked on a few things and had that training block along with Daniel Rich. So in all respect to the great man, he's a champion of the game. What he's done for Hawthorn's been phenomenal. Really great leader. I'm sure that he taught some of the younger fellas some really nice habits, but I don't see him as a big loss to us. Fullerton, yeah, he would have been nice, but he never really came on. That bloke with a basketball background would be nice depth, but I think that's really all that he is, depth for us. And then Brandon Ryan as an in, a young type player, a bit raw, but we saw what he did for Hawthorn. Had a nice game. I think he might have booted 2 or 3 with that left foot. Looked a little bit awkward, but Gunston for Ryan, I'm more than happy with that. And again, I think he'll be depth, but he'll be handy type depth, and he'll develop well, I think, in the twos. And with a future pick, out went to, in goes 4. I don't know what happens, but really looking forward to Mr. Ashcroft next year. So Levi should join his brother Will. I'll be very surprised if that doesn't happen. And the recruiters and our staff there, they'll make that happen. We made it happen with bringing Dunkley in and Ashcroft in and Fletcher in and all the rest. So we'll make this happen next year. So, yeah, pretty exciting. And retired Daniel Richards, you mentioned before, yeah, great servant of the club. Marcus Adams really sad. But if you look at Dude, I think is a perfect replacement for Marcus Adams. And Nakai Cockatoo as well. Always a talented type player, but just never really seemed to get his body right, which was a little bit sad. But we gave him a chance, and yeah, apparently a nice bloke. But again, with all due respect, hope he goes well, whatever he does, but no massive loss for us. So all in all, pretty happy, boys. Pretty happy.
Yeah, I guess kind of I agree with what Kano said this week about Brisbane. I think has the biggest star-studded team. You guys have got the depth, but every year, players who were like A-graders at other clubs keep coming. I know it's something to do with kind of maybe the Brisbane lifestyle a little bit, but good players want to play for good clubs, right? So Duday this year, Dunkley last year, just keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. I mean, this year you'll get a good father-son with your, I guess, not even your first-round picks, and maybe someone else is on the cards too, DR.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, mate. But look, it always hasn't been as rosy as it seems at the moment. We look at, 10 years ago, however long it was roughly. Remember the go home 5? It was just terrible. Doherty, Yo, Karnitsis, Longer, Polek. It was so dire at the club at that stage. And I think Fagan coming in, the best thing that he's done, and another bloke that, and look, I know they didn't go too well at North Melbourne, but a lot of respect needs to be given to David Noble when he first came across to Brisbane as well as Greg Swan. So Fagan, Noble and Greg Swan got everything right off field. Once we got everything right off field, set that culture, then we were able to attract players like you just mentioned. So that was such a huge thing for us because I think culture for Brisbane just wasn't at a fantastic level. Had a different type of culture, but a really strong culture back in the premiership days with Lee Matthews. But I think that the wheels sort of fell off after that with some of the coaches we had. And again, no disrespect to them, but having Fagan come in as that fatherly type figure, I think was great for us. And there's been a few question marks over the last few years. Is he actually the man to now move us forward? Do we need more of that tactical type coach? Because, hey, he's been great Father Fagan type thing, but, is that where his strength lies? Within the culture, building a side. Is his strength in the tactical nous? Maybe not in some people's opinion, but I'm a huge fan of Fagan. I think that's why hopefully he's got some good assistants around him to maybe give more of that tactical nous, and he can take more of that management type approach, I think. But just Swan, Fagan, Noble, huge for setting up that culture and actually bringing players across.
Mate, all these fantastic North Melbourne names like Jared Polek and David Noble, bringing back memories.
Yeah, that's right. There you go, fellas.
No, I've tried to defend Noble with Big J. I'm like, when you come from a and having had a real impact in transforming the Brisbane Lions, as you mentioned, because it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows, and I just felt like you getting Lachie Neale across the line, prying him out of Fremantle, and bringing him over to Brisbane was such a massive move. And I think if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be seeing the Brisbane of today, because Lachie Neale is one of the best players to have ever played the game. He is such an incredible talent, an incredible leader. And there's so few players out there. It's very rare for someone of his physical size to be so good in and under, winning contested balls and clearances. And he's obviously a shining light amongst others. Like, I know you didn't mention this guy, but I got a soft spot for Starcevic in your backline. You mentioned a lot of names, but Starcevic was not one of them, and I was waiting for his name to come. I like good stuff.
You're disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't give Stars a little shout out there. Obviously, the nephew of Craig Starcevic, who's our Lions, Brisbane Lions women's coach as well, who's done a phenomenal job. But yeah, Stas, really underrated pick as well. Obviously a WA boy, but he just does the job. He was originally drafted more as a midfielder, as that hard-nosed midfielder, but he's found his real niche position down back as that lockdown type player, and absolutely unheralded is Stas. You just know that he does his job every week. And I only reckon there was maybe 2 or 3 times last year where he was actually beaten. But I reckon, yeah, the other 20 times that he stepped onto the field, then certainly didn't have his colours lowered whatsoever. So very good shout out there, Joey. Outside the Brisbane Lions, not hugely rated, I don't think, that man.
I would say a few teams definitely put in offers for him. If not him, then your Jack Paynes and whatnot as well. So those kind of came through the VFL older like defenders that you guys have had. I think the last one that really left was Josh Walker, who maybe didn't get a lot of and came to North Melbourne, ironically. A lot of these guys who, maybe either on the cusp or just doing really well for you in those backlines, underrated players.
Yeah, well, another thing, boys, just very quickly when it's talking about ins and outs, I'm very, very confident we'll keep this man. We'll have to pay up, though. Free agent Hugh McCluggage, the Rolls Royce this year. So I'll tell you what, if all other 17 clubs didn't come coming for this man, you'd be absolutely nuts. Yeah, I don't see a team not coming for him because he's such a talented player on the inside, on the outside. And look, may not be, and maybe it's the fact that he's at Brisbane, but I don't think that he's held in as high a regard as other players, maybe from Victorian teams. But remember, if we look back to the All-Australian, maybe even 2, 3, 4 years ago, if there was a pure wingman selected, Hugh McCluggage would have been a 2-time All-Australian, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm hoping we're going to keep on to this young bloke. He's great mates with Jared Berry, who is also a free agent coming into this year. So I'm hoping that 2 blokes just stick together. We've got a bright future, I think, if the McCluggage and Berry types stay. But, a little bit nervous until he re-signs or signs on with us.
And you're right. You will have to pay up for him. You will have to pay up for him because there is no...
Clubs are coming.
The CBA is changing as well. It's a different agreement, correct. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, and also because you're not going to have Ashcroft in the first half of the season, you would imagine that he would be first dibs, I suppose, getting a bit more of a line share of CBAs that otherwise might have gone to him. So he's going to be in and around the ball a lot more. He's going to be a lot more prominent. He's going to have the ability to show off his skills, which are amazing. He is such a silky player, and he's a great kick inside 50. I love, once he gets in full flight and he's kicking the ball inside 50 on a lead, good luck. Because how many times have you seen him kick to Hipwood on a lead? On the chest. Same thing with Joey. On the chest. There's nothing anyone can do. He is a really talented player. I'd love to have him at the club, but we've got Andy McGrath.
Oh, well, look, mate, it's and I've said that's one of the great gifts from GWS as well. Obviously, you guys selected Andy McGrath, but they traded pick 2 for 3 with us and threw in 16, which I think we got Berry for. So they got Taranto, we got McCluggage and Berry as well. So, very, very happy about that. But the only thing with Huey, which I'd really like to see him clean up, is his actual kicking for goal. He seems to choke up a little bit at times, I think. And if you look back to his junior years, that was part of his strength as well, with his goal kicking accuracy. So if you can fix that up a little bit and actually be a little bit more damaging on the scoreboard, then that would take his game, I think, even to the next level, mate. And even, I know we're not talking Supercoach, but Supercoach-wise, if he fixes up that part of his game, you look at what that can do to his average over 23-odd games, it's pretty positive, mate. So, I'm hoping that we can keep on to him and the Berry types. I'm very confident at this stage. But, money talks. Money does talk. Yeah.
Maybe he can hang out with Zach Bailey a little bit more because he loves those run through the middles and goals.
Oh, that's it, mate. The Rat Bailey. The Rat. Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Maybe Hugh's a bit embarrassed because over there at the Gabba, every time you could go, your song plays. So maybe Hugh's a bit embarrassed that he's going to be teased for his song.
That's right, mate. No, it's no country road. So,
no,
we cop a bit of flack for that as well, the Brisbane supporters. Like, dickhead type song. But I love it, mate. I love it. A bit of passion, mate. Something a little bit different,
100%. When when Country Road comes on in that grand final, we're belting it, celebrating, come on,
That's
hoping,
it.
trying to will you
Yeah.
guys over the line. But I just hate it every time Joey kicks a goal and he plays his Frozen Let It Go. That
Oh,
that
yes,
pisses me off. I'm sorry. I just I have to mute the TV a little bit there. I gotta admit. All right. Let me then move to the next phase of your team. We were talking about some young talent. You picked up some more, especially it was very much you're going for some bigs. You're looking for your tall timber in this draft. You're trying to stock up for your future. You're going for a couple of key forwards in Logan Morris and Luke Lloyd. And you've got a really interesting, very highly talented key defender in Zane Zakostelski. I love saying that name.
Well done. I'm impressed at the pronunciation there, Joey. Have you been practicing that? Surely that wasn't just rolled off the tongue. How long did it take you to practice
A
that?
couple of times there.
Mate, look, having some beers definitely let the tongue
Displays a
go.
little bit easier.
Yes, exactly.
Love it, mate.
We've spoken about kind of not being any pressure at the club to come in and play straight away versus some other teams this year. I think the pickups you've done and kind of just the positions you've filled really are setting you up further for success. Like if you look at here, 2 key forwards, right? Even if they don't have to play next year, you've got cover for your Danahers and whatnot that are, eventually going to end up retiring. You've got guys to cover key defender positions and then midfield positions too. So I would love to, I'd love to play for AFL in general, but love to come in as a Brisbane recruit, be like, cool, you don't have to play competitive for the next year. You can go in, learn your craft in the VFL, play really well there, and when your time comes, your time comes. Versus a lot of other clubs where it's just like, cool, we've got to get performance out of you straight away. Otherwise, burn pick, whatever wasn't great for us.
That's right. Didn't have a massive draft hand this year, but yeah, from all reports, some pretty talented players here. I think Zane, we'll go Zane Zach just for short for me, mate. I'm not even going to attempt that, mate, because you've done it perfectly, and we're going to leave this at 100% accuracy. So my man Zane Zach, look, heard a good bit of X factor there as well with a key defender. Logan Morris at pick 31 as a key forward. Lloyd as well as a key forward. You already mentioned Big J, pretty much what I was going to say, mate. The beauty for these blokes is that they can just apply their craft at VFL level, learn off, well, as you mentioned, Joey, as well, some of the best forwards in the competition, learn their roles and just develop. And Torren as well as a midfielder, I think we've got some really nice mids as depth, and even the Jimmy Tunstall types and Jackson Pry, who's a really versatile type player. They're AFL quality. I'm not saying they're superstars by any measure, but these blokes are absolute AFL quality. So I don't really feel like we need to invest in the midfield, particularly given the fact that we're looking at Ashcroft again next year. And Brucey Revel, love this man. Brucey Revel, love his haircut as well. Used to have the long hair as well, bit of an afro type setup. So actually first saw him playing in the Brisbane Lions reserves when he wasn't actually an AFL listed player. And I think he kicked 3 or 4. It was a game that was televised for some reason. I forget from memory, but I thought, yeah, it'd be really nice if this fella actually was given a go. He's a local boy from Brisbane also. Won't be pushing for senior games anytime soon, but again, hopefully in the future. And I think we just wanted to add to that key depth more than anything. And then maybe Torrent and Revel, we saw something in coming pretty cheap with a pre-listed rookie and pick 64. So not much work this year, but next year I think we'll do a little bit more work.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get a good free Category B rookie, why not, right?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, even the Conor McKenna's last year, that was a really handy addition coming. Oh, Joey, geez, sorry, mate. Geez, Danaher, the McKenna types. I'm not doing this on purpose, mate. I'm not trying to poke the bear or anything.
We love to give, we love to provide, whether it be good players, whether it be jokes about our finals win drought. We love to provide over at the Bombers anytime. We accept card, cash, direct transfers into our bank account, whatever floats your boat, we're happy to accept. But I mean, was there anything in particular that I don't know, I mean, is there anything in particular that you think that the Brisbane Lions list is missing? Or do you think that you've got everything that you could need at this point in time to really challenge for 2024?
Look, I really do, without being overly confident. And believe me, being a Brisbane supporter and old Fitzroy supporter, I'm never, ever overly confident. But I think if you've looked at the recruiting over the past few years, we really have recruited for need as well. And some, as you said, have been superstars of the competition, but we haven't just grabbed a superstar because they're available. We have had them as an area of need. You look at someone like a Josh Dunkley. We needed a big-bodied, defensively minded midfielder. And that's exactly what Josh Dunkley brings. I think there's some little upside there. The fact that Dunkley, particularly towards the end of the season, he was carrying a bit of an injury there. Lots of people say that it was because Ashcroft was out. Dunkley's score started to go down the Supercoach sense, but I think he was certainly carrying something. And remember, it was his first year in the Brisbane Lions system. So in our second year, we're always better off for that. He knows his teammates better. He's obviously got a lot more trust, hopefully, in his teammates as well. So I think that's something we need to take into account. I think the progression and natural progression and those three blokes that I'm really looking to take the next step without putting pressure on him, that's Kitty Coleman. We mentioned Daniel Riches leaving the side, and I think Coleman could be a bloke that really fills those shoes. Zach Bailey, Rat Bailey, you mentioned before, Big J, X-Factor type. But what I think with Bailey is he's missing consistency to his game. There's games where he would kick a bag of 4 or 3 and just absolutely tear things apart. He's won games after siren off his own boot. He's a super player. But then he has those games where he just doesn't seem to feature the 9-10 possessions. I think if he can get that, just say to 15 possessions or even some more defensive acts, add to his tackle count, that'll really help to take his game to the next level and add some more consistency to his game and to his numbers as well. And the other bloke who I've already mentioned is Cam Rayner. Remember, a former number 1 pick, super talented type bloke. I'm giving him a fair bit of leeway for being out with a knee for a season, but I think coming into this year, he's had that year to rehabilitate. He's had another year to get back into the system, hopefully get a bit more confidence in his body. This is the year for me where he really needs to step up, because if we look at other players in that draft like LDU, Andy Brayshaw, Brayshaw's already stamped himself. It was the MVP, was he the year before, as a star of the competition. LDU this year, I think all of us can agree that he's got untapped potential. Rayner, although I don't think or expect that he may necessarily get to the level that the other two blokes have got to or will get to, I still think that he could be a very, very decent player of the competition, and he's a confidence type player. Look out for him to hopefully explode this year. So they're 3 blokes that I'm predicting. Is it more of a prediction, more of a hope? I'm not too sure, but call it a prediction, call it a hope.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line between
that's
prediction
right.
and hope.
That's right.
Hey, when you make a grand final, you can say whatever you want.
Well, that's right. That's right. So him along with I think Fletcher, he's a really exciting type player, a bit of untapped potential there. Could be a really, really handy player, particularly on the outside. And look, the blokes who even we brought in last year with McKenna, he'll be a year better. Hopefully he can add to the side. And I think if you look at Brisbane, and again, not being overconfident, every area of the ground, they're not just solid players. We've got some superstars of the competition. And with the other role players in there, I think we've got a bit of a perfect mix. So fingers crossed, guys. Predictions. I don't want to get too confident. No, all right, I will. We're going to go one better this year. Hopefully,
Yes.
We're going to be holding the cap, and I will absolutely celebrate. My wife is already preparing for this. Again, not being over. I keep on not saying getting overconfident, but I'll go missing, boys, for a good 2 days. So she's going to make sure she gets the tracking thing on my phone just to make sure she knows exactly where I am when I get lost. But if we do win this, fellas, I'll tell you what, I'll celebrate, and I'll celebrate hard. And with being very
as you should,
at the same time.
As you should. It's a flag.
They're
not easy to win. Yeah, they're not easy to win.
In terms of like regular season, obviously playing at the Gabba is a bit of a stronghold for you guys. What do you guys need to improve during the regular season? Is it kind of getting better at playing at other grounds? Because, you still made top 4, you still made grand finals. Where does the improvement come from you, from Brisbane? Is it consistency from some of the younger guys, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, a bit of a mix of a few things, mate. I think consistency, definitely. I think another year actually playing together, that's going to help, because I think last year we had a bit of a turnover, not of the whole list, but a turnover in our best 22. Even blokes like Wilmot featured basically each and every week. So I just think that the synergy another year on, we'll be a lot better off there. But in regards to things that we need to improve, I think that there's still some times where in the big moments we are lacking. I think that's the same for a lot of teams, but I think that's definitely something. I think that, as you mentioned already, consistency from some of those, let's just say they're B graders now, but have the potential to push into A graders. And also that away record. We also, lost to Hawthorn a couple of times last year. I went with Steve SDS to one of the games where Sis got suspended for knocking out Huey McCluggage. But they're the type of games that I think that we need to be able to win and just lock away. We put a little bit of pressure on ourselves towards the end of the season, even to lock away a top 4 spot. So I think that we really need to nail those teams that we should nail. And that obviously helps to get that percentage boostage. But it seems like with some of the better teams, like your Carlton, like your Pies, we did seem to actually get across the line. So maybe some of the teams that we expect to win, is it a mental thing? I'm not too sure. But maybe do we get too overconfident? Maybe that could be a thing. Don't get too overconfident when you're playing the North, the Hawthorn, even the West Coast types, because on their good day, the same as any team in the comp, if you're 5% off, you could get absolutely done and pretty embarrassed.
And improving win-loss ratio at stadiums like Adelaide Oval as well. Both of the Adelaide teams have kind of done the same things as what you guys have with the Gabba over there, and never tear us apart kind of plays, and you guys get a bit nervous and whatnot. I mean, you had the win at Brisbane versus Port Adelaide, but starting the season off with a 50-point loss kind of sets the tone a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen again for you guys.
Yeah, it wasn't looking good. You think, oh, geez, what's going on here? But managed to bring it home. And I think we're really lucky having that home ground advantage. You can pretty much lock in most of those wins. Maybe if you're being overcautious, maybe take 1-2 away. But I think that's really, really handy. And all you really need to do is lock away a few of those away wins to get yourself into the finals. And then it's those 50-50 type games, like the grand final, where momentum's going one way, then the other. They're the type of games that you need to win, because we've mentioned a few times, boys, but any team on their day can take care of the best teams in the competition. And that's what I love about football these days. I think if you look back, even 15, 20 years ago, you pretty much penciling a win and you knew what the result was going to be. But these days, you just never know, which is a very exciting part of the game.
Bit of a cheat code there from Brisbane. Just build your own stadium and fill it with your fans, and then you win half your games. So
that's it.
That's everyone. That's Geelong.
I mean, half the Melbourne teams Adelaide. Share Marvel or MCG, so can't really do that as much.
The problem that Brisbane have is that they only play the MCG twice this year coming up. You know what I mean? Like if Brisbane had a bit more exposure at the MCG, I guess another. They have 2 games coming up at Optus Stadium. You play West Coast and you play Freo there. And Optus Stadium does have the same dimensions as the MCG. So you're sort of playing an MCG-sized ground 4 times this year. I don't think you had it. I don't think you had that much opportunity last year. So hopefully that means that come finals time, you do have a bit more practice, I guess. It's still a lot less than the Collingwoods and the Richmonds and all these other MCG-based teams, but that's why you need to have an advantage in a home ground. You know what I mean? Because if you don't train and play at the MCG on a regular basis, where the grand final takes place, you need something back in your favor. And if that means a home ground during the season, then in my opinion, that's perfectly fine. And I think kudos to Brisbane for making it a real fortress, the Gabatoir. And hopefully you can do one better.
Yes. Yeah, well, and just very quickly as well, when we talk about home grounds, I think the fact that at Springfield now we've got our training facility there, that's made a huge difference off the field as well. So you're just going to the one spot all the time. I know previous to that, the blokes were all over the shop. It'd be Cooperoo one day, somewhere else the next, another random local over the next day. So having that training facility there, and it's, I think from what I've heard, pretty elite, that's a real bonus. But in a bit of a downside, now, is it the Olympic, Commonwealth, whatever games that are coming up, the Gabba's actually getting a bit of a redevelopment. So that home ground advantage, when we're talking about the Gabba per se in particular, that will be actually going in the future. I don't know what the actual timeline's like, but that's something that probably the players aren't looking forward to. I'm not sure where we'll be playing, but something else to keep in mind for Brisbane supporters going into the future.
But that is not for 2024. This discussion was about 2024 and the Brisbane Lions, and it was with an incredible, absolute superstar, not just of the Supercoach community, but of the footy community in general. It is, of course, DR of his YouTube channel, which recently hit an incredible milestone. And for that, we here at the Centre Bounce extend an incredible congratulations. Well done. So very well deserved, DR.
Oh, thank you very much, legends. Very humbled by it. Look, it's just a number, but what I say all the time is if it's not for great blokes like you and the other people that tune in, the channel would be absolutely nothing. And the best thing about it is certainly the friendships that I've made over the years. And I've obviously caught up with you two blokes before. We've shared a couple of cold ones at Crown and Big J at the footy before. And cannot wait again, hopefully this year, guys, not just to catch up online here with these team previews and all the rest. And again, you'll be both featuring on my channel, Joey for the Essendon team preview and Big J obviously for the North team preview. So thank you very much and stoked for that. But hopefully we'll catch up in person again a few times during the year, boys. And that's been the best thing about it. And certainly why I love having these chats. And yeah, anytime you'd love me to come on, I would enjoy every second of it. So thank you very much for having me, lads. I don't know if you can see the sweat. It's bloody hot down here, isn't it, guys?
Me too, mate. Me too.
Oh, I tell you what, we've done well. I didn't think I've just chucked the Brisbane. I thought, being Brisbane, I'll chuck the Brisbane jumper on. I should have gone for a bloody t-shirt or even the singlet, get the guns out. But yeah, I remember for the next time on a hot day, get the t-shirt out. But thank you very much for having me, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
No dramas. Remember, guys, we've got our Supercoach League. I'm going to put the link in the description there. You guys can win some 3 amazing prizes. And DR's son won one of our prizes last year. So you still got to go and hit us up for that too. For those tickets. We've got a jersey as well, and we've got an AFL voucher.
That's why I tune into the channel. That's why I tune into the channel. Not is it just great free advice. It's free prizes as well. So what have you got to lose? I'm telling you, subscribe to these two legends. Get in the leagues. I know there'll be a pretty competitive league, so not easy to get the chocolates or the prizes this year, but you got to be in it to win it. So make sure that you join. It's all free to join as well. So what's not to like about this? Jump in, legends. Highly recommend it. One of the first leagues I joined myself.
Cheers, DR. And we our slogan is we do the hard work so that you don't have to. My camera is absolutely dying in this heat. It's being overheated. As you can see my background, I feel like I'm in a war zone at the moment, some sort of World War II documentary, me trying to escape here from the bombers. But it's a massive pleasure. Guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, I don't know how you possibly couldn't have already, but if you haven't somehow, head on over to Supercoach DR, subscribe to him, subscribe to us, and hit the notification bells on both channels so that you don't miss out on any of the content that both of us are continuously pumping out for all of you guys. Because on our channels, we do the hard work so that you guys don't have to. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Peace.